Joining me now is Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General of the United States. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for joining our coverage tonight. I want to start first with the news conference. It was a bit different. I'm from Miami. I'm Cuban American, so I understand the reasons why it was set up that way. What were your thoughts on presenting this indictment in that manner?
Well, look, I mean, I think this is an indictment that reflected something that happened over 30 years ago. And so it's been something that's been on the minds of Americans for a long time, especially Cuban Americans in Miami. The case was indicted in Miami. There's a lot of local law enforcement that worked on the case. And when it was indicted last month and it was under seal, and we knew that today was coming, May 20th, which is a very important day, obviously, for Cubans and Cuban Americans, we thought it most appropriate to do the press conference there.
Yeah, I've read through this indictment. I'm sure you have as well. I also read through the Maduro indictment. They are very different. And you said it clearly, this is not a show indictment. I want you to explain that to our viewers in a second. But I want to know where the smoking gun is here. Is it essentially that Raúl Castro was the leader of the military, and the military had been training these pilots to shoot down these small aircraft, knowing they were unarmed, knowing they were civilian aircraft? Is that essentially the smoking gun? And is that enough to get a guilty verdict if you were to stand trial?
So, look, that would not be enough. I mean, if it's just a mere position under our laws, that doesn't mean that you are guilty of murder, which is in conspiracy to commit murder, which is what these defendants are charged with, including Raúl Castro. So no, there has to be proof of every single element. And so this was a case where we got some information very recently that allowed us to take the case, to the next level and seek an indictment. But I can't talk about beyond what's in the indictment, which it's a very detailed indictment, and there's a lot of information there, so that tells the American people a lot about the charges. But beyond that, I can't get into the specific evidence that was presented to the grand jury.
I get that, but you've opened the door now, and now you've piqued my interest. I know that there's someone mentioned here that is an unindicted co-conspirator, someone who was essentially running the airbase where these MiG jets took off from. Is that person someone who has come forward now? Have they always been sort of in this case from the get-go?
Yeah, I definitely can't talk about that. I appreciate that it piqued your interest, and I understand why, but it goes back to the show indictment, which is that this is not a show indictment. And there are times, especially over the past several years, where the United States has sought indictments of individuals that they know they're never going to get. That is not the case here. I think we're actively, as you all have been reporting on, we're an active, Cuba is a big part of this president and the Secretary Rubio and others. We need to get control of this situation, and so we hope that one day soon Raúl Castro is in a courtroom in Miami facing these charges, and he will be, if he chooses to do so, go to trial.
Do you think Raúl Castro will set foot in the United States and stand trial?
That's the goal. I mean, there's an arrest warrant, and we indict people, as I said earlier today, we indict people outside the United States all the time. And there's a lot of ways that we can get them, and I certainly hope that any defendant that's indicted in this country stands trial for what they've been charged with doing.
Florida Republican Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart says that officials and lawmakers have for decades known about a recording of Raúl Castro admitting to that deadly shootdown of the 1996 plane. This is something you'd have to prove in court. Can you confirm that is part of this investigation?
No, I can't confirm that at all. I've read those reports as well, but I can only talk about what's in the indictment, and obviously that's not part of what's stated in the indictment.
Yeah, there have been multiple Republican and Democratic administrations who had this same evidence. This starts with President Clinton back in the 90s. You have other administrations. You even have the first Trump administration. Why is this being done now?
Well, look, like I said, for one, there's no statute of limitations on murder. So the fact that it's being done now is certainly allowed under our laws. And the other important factor is that this case was never dropped. This case, not only Cuban Americans, but law enforcement stayed on this case for a long time. You had Senator Moody, when she was the Attorney General in Florida, was very focused on this case and figuring out whether there's a way to go after the Castro regime and for what they did here. And so this is not as if we picked up a dusty old case file and said, let's see what we have here. This is something that the law enforcement in this country has been focused on for a long time, and we were able to recently get the evidence and be in the right situation to be able to indict.
For our viewers who may be surprised about this case, they may not know the history like I have because I lived through this down in Miami. There was a thing called the WASP network, right? And this was a spy network that was set up by the Cuban government that infiltrated not only Brothers to the Rescue, the organization that was eventually shot down in the sky, but also the CIA and also Congress. How sophisticated of a spy operation was that? And why is this now part of this indictment in your case?
Well, this indictment is it's about the murder of four Americans, and it's not about some vaster effort by Cuba to infiltrate this government or infiltrate the Miami community or the Cuban community in Miami. And so, yes, there's a lot of history with Cuba and the United States, and that's not all addressed. That's not all charged or remedied in this indictment. This indictment is a small part of that, but certainly this is a big step forward in bringing justice to those Cuban Americans, the families, the friends, the loved ones of the four men who were murdered 30 years ago.
Your DOJ news conference earlier revealed that there were 16 FBI teams involved to secure this indictment. How many U.S. resources are out there right now dedicated to Cuba?
Well, a lot. Well, I think what the FBI said is there were 16 separate investigations that helped make this case, right? So there was a lot of different investigations where there's certain parts of the investigation that helped us with the evidence, and that happens in a lot of cases, and it's why the FBI and our law enforcement partners do such a great job. And so there's a lot from DOJ's standpoint. There's obviously a lot of resources in everything involving Cuba. I can't speak to Department of War, Department of State, or others, but we certainly have a lot of effort, as you saw today, into Cuba.
I have two more questions for you. You see a lot of cases, you see a lot of indictments, you've worked on a lot of legal issues. What surprised you about this case?
Well, look, I think what surprised me, if anything, is that it shows it wasn't really surprise. I think it was appreciation for hard law enforcement work. I think what happened here is there's a group of prosecutors and federal agents and state and local agents and state and local prosecutors who would not give up. And when you see that, I prosecuted cold case murders when I was a federal prosecutor. It takes a detective, it takes a prosecutor, it takes somebody who's committed to justice and bringing justice. And this was a refreshing example of the great work law enforcement can do.
Finally, Mr. Attorney General, what is your message tonight to Raúl Castro?
Well, I don't have a message to him. He's a charged defendant in a now unsealed indictment charging him with not only conspiracy but substantive murder of four Americans. And we welcome him to come to Miami and stand up to a judge and stand up to a jury in this country and address those charges.
Mr. Blanche, we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. It was good to be here.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.